My father is suffering, Dr. Weston.
I think the last few weeks have been especially difficult for all of us.
Mr. Sunil, your son mentioned that you've been in New York for what, four months?
5.
5 months. And that you might be having some trouble adjusting. Would that be true?
Baba, could you borrow now?
Would you like me to? So lately, Sunil has not been getting out of bed before noon. He hasn't been eating. He hasn't showered or shaved in days. And he hasn't actually left the house in going on 2 weeks.
He actually got out of bed at 11:20 today.
How do you know?
I called home, and Liza told me.
Liza is...
She's our nanny.
Okay. So your father isn't sleeping and he's not been showering?
He's also been rude to Aaron.
Well, he speaks.
Oh, he speaks beautifully. Just not to me.
And I see that he eats, too.
Only his candy. Anything of nutritional value is out of the question.
He's an adult, Julia. He can eat what he chooses.
Dr. Weston, I do not want to come across as the disgruntled daughter-in-law. I am aware that our current situation would be hard on any family, but I don't think that what we're experiencing is the usual disruption. The kids have started asking questions. We are truly concerned for Sunil's well-being.
Have you been living with your son for the full 5 months?
Yes, as I told you over the phone, we brought him over from Calcutta shortly after my mother passed.
Calcutta, that's quite a long way.
Just before Aaron's mother passed, she made him promise that we would bring him to New York.
So, can I ask you if your father's presence in your house has always been this challenging?
At first, things may have been easier, but...
He seemed functional, at least. I mean, he was engaged with the children. He was affectionate with them and ate breakfast with them in the morning. They were crazy about him.
They still are.
I think he scares them now, Aaron. The fact is, Dr. Weston, that Sunil has become such a shut-in that Aaron now runs errands for him. He works incredibly long hours, and then he comes home only to have to turn around and go and get his father his candy, or his tea, or his papers and his tobacco for his cigarettes that he then smokes inside the house.
He doesn't smoke in the house.
I caught him just last night. Sunil was a math professor. He used to teach at a prestigious high school in Calcutta.
Yeah, they had him retire early. They're replacing the older teachers now.
Is he alone in the house a lot?
Well, Aaron and I both go to work every day.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a literary agent. What did he say?
He said he shares the house with the nanny.
Liza.
Yeah. She's a lovely person, I might add.
And occasionally the housekeeper too.
And how do you feel about all of this, Mr. Sunil? Would you prefer to have stayed in India?
I realize that grief is a delicate, complicated process. But it has been 6 months.
I'm sorry, what is it exactly that you're trying to say?
Well, I'm saying it's been a considerable amount of time. And he's surrounded by his family. And we're making an effort. I mean, we truly are.
Mr. Sunil, do you feel like you're suffering? Do you understand why Julia and Aaron wanted you to come here today?
I think he misses my mother.
Mr. Sunil, a few minutes ago, Julia mentioned that she felt that your grandchildren were afraid of you. Do you think there's any truth in that assertion?
वो नीचे के भय पाए.
What did he say?
He said she's afraid of herself.
This is what I mean, Dr. Weston. He's become cryptic and cruel. I didn't want to say anything, but if I...
Sorry, go on.
He is making me increasingly more uncomfortable in my own home.
Julia.
It's true, Aaron.
Well, I think I'm beginning to get a sense of the situation. Would you mind if I spend some time alone with Sunil? Things are obviously strained between you and your daughter-in-law.
Strain, yes.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask you why you choose not to speak to her?
My son's name is Orun. Orun, not Aaron. In Hindi, Orun means the sun in the sky.
When did he decide to change his name?
When he came here for college. Aaron is the name of a spoiled child in an American TV show.
That must have been a disappointment to you and your wife, that he changed his name, yeah?
I cannot bring myself to call him by this name. There was a period of time when Julia wanted to call me Suni, like a name of a pet.
I'm sure that didn't last long.
She named her daughter after a company that makes bottled water, Naya. Perhaps their next child will be called iPod. Hmm?
So, do you hold your son accountable for your granddaughter's name?
Sometimes I think it might be possible she's contaminating him. That my son is not what he used to be.
In what way do you mean? Mr. Sunil, is there any reason why your daughter-in-law would feel uncomfortable around you?
I cannot imagine it.
When she was trying to describe the way that you look at her.
See, I have no idea what my face is doing when I'm looking at something.
Okay, it's fair enough. But can you describe what you feel when you pass her in the corridor?
I feel like passing her as quickly as possible. And so I do.
When Julia suggested that your grandchildren were afraid of you, you answered that she was afraid of herself. At least that's how your son translated it. Is that in fact what you said?
Yes.
And what did you mean by that?
Sometimes one is fearful of what may be an emptiness within. So one enjoys the affirmation of being bowed to by the nanny, the housekeeper, the man who comes to pull up the weeds in the garden.
Do you think Aaron bows down to Julia? Julia implied that your grieving for your wife hadn't eased in the past 6 months. Would you agree with that?
Dr. Weston, my wife and I were married for 30 years. From the age of 23 until the day she died, I spent practically every day of my life with her. I do not understand the need to quantify the process of grieving, this need to count the years and months.
I would like to help you in any way that I can.
Perhaps you could write me a prescription that would allow me to return to India, where my wife would be alive. I would walk into my home and greet each other as if I was simply away on a trip. Then we would have a wonderful dinner, talk about all the things I did and saw while I was away. And later we would fall asleep with a bright moon glowing softly on the window. Can you do that, Dr. Weston?